Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from beautiful Daytona Beach, Florida. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Sleeping Saturday. Welcome to Florida. I'm down here doing a teacher training with my good friend, Alexis Martin, who you might know, Kaustubha. She's cool. Yogi, her and her husband are here. Beautiful day in Florida today, and it's great to see everybody. I woke up under like some spell of Maya, and I got in very late because my plane was delayed. And so I woke up like, oh my God, I got to wake up for the show. I've only got like 3.5 hours of sleep. So I woke up like I throw water on my face. I was like, wait a second, it's Sleeping Saturday. Went back to bed, went for a nice japa walk, rubbed it in the... Well, it's sort of like one of those bays, those inland bay things in Florida. Mm-hmm. Took off my shoes, just walked barefoot, chanted japa. You know the deal. Yeah. Sent a picture to Mara and Kaustubha, tried to rub it in their face. Hey,
but then I one-upped you.
I'm enjoying life. He tried to one-up me. I said, yeah, I'm on a japa walk too in Central Park. And I said, oh yeah, I can see a dolphin. He said, oh yeah, there's tons of wildlife here. And I said, oh yeah, the dolphin gave me a ride, dropped me off at a health food store and made me breakfast. And he couldn't top that.
I did top it. You didn't read it?
Yeah, he said, no, you said the dolphin made you breakfast, and he brought you to a whole
You said it brought you to a health food store, and I said it brought me to an even healthier food store.
And I said the dolphin made me a raw food breakfast, which was done Ayurvedically.
And I said mine wasn't even raw. It was still in the ground because it's much healthier that way.
What was that? There was a Saturday Night Live thing. What was that person
One-upper.
called? Is it called the One-Upper?
She has some name, but she's people call her.
Mara, you know that?
Yeah, I don't know what it's called though.
All right, that's your homework, Mara.
I'll work on that.
Study shlokas and learn that in a Saturday Night Live skit.
Got it.
And we got a good friend here today, Dunya.
Yeah.
She's got it all, Dunya, doesn't she?
She does.
One of those people I'm completely envious of. Instead of being like, good for her, I'm like, damn, my life. Right? She's a mom. She's like a therapist. She's a wife. She's a, incredible, talented musician, artist on the side. She's like a glamorous, well-spoken, all that stuff.
But we decided that we needed a therapist today.
Yeah.
So we brought her on. Some of these questions are like beyond us.
Yeah.
Right? Don't ask us that kind of question. We can't help you.
I can't help you. Are you kidding? I need the therapist. Kaustubha was like, you need a team of therapists from Vienna flown in that follow you around all day.
Like the Elephant Man.
So let's dive into the show, guys. Any announcements?
Yeah, there's some announcements. You got some first, Mara? Anything?
Oh, well, we have a Bhakti recovery group meeting today at 9:30.
I love this Bhakti recovery group. If you guys are struggling with addictive issues, anything, we have this 12-step. It goes hand in hand, like a peas in a pod.
Yeah. Recovery
and Bhakti, and we have Nancy R. and Jiva, and what's her brother's name?
Ed. Ed.
Ed, thank you. These guys are like just doing monumental work. I mean, it's really groundbreaking to really tie these two very powerful things together, and it's blown up. So if you're not familiar with that and you feel like you need some of that in your life, go there.
Okay.
And what else were you going to say before I cut you off?
Two things. One thing is, it is terribly sad about what's happening in India right now, and how COVID is just raging there. And there's, people that we know, a lot of very special, and especially maybe we can have some prayers for such a special, important, incredibly sweet and saintly person, Pankaj Prabhu. Those.
How is he doing?
He's not doing well,
Doing well.
And so, he's in Mayapur right now. In Mayapur, one of the most important holy sites for us, was hit very hard. And so, especially Pankaj, he and his twin brother were some of the earliest people there as part of that Mayapur project. They are the pujaris, the priests of the Mayapur temple. They're these two twins that are just like, it's almost insane just how pure and saintly they are.
Incredible.
Right?
And the Mayapur project, by the way, was a field.
Yeah.
That was the Mayapur project. It was a field on the banks of the Ganga. And then, a team of these really dedicated. I mean, to live in India back then when there was nothing but malaria and mosquitoes and holy spots, you got to be really, really surrendered. We like to drop in, eat some pakoras and fly away, say some prayers and fly away. These guys are like completely dedicated. And the team of these people over the years have built a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful, welcoming center and community. It's quite impressive. These two are like pillars of, the priests.
The quality of their service.
Yeah.
And the quality of their personas, is just so special. And anybody that's ever been in their presence knows it, and feels it.
So one of them's in this condition right now, and we're just going to do a Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for them. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Now people have been asking, is there any way to help? And, honestly, I'm not so up to date on it, but I just thought I'd bring this one thing to people's attention. And that is today, there's a fundraiser going. It's called Help India Breathe. It's happening online from 1 to 3 Pacific Standard Time. And, Raghunath Swami will be taking part in that. People that we know, like Gaur Gopal, Janavi. It's being hosted by Jay Shetty and his wife, Radhi. So you can find that if you Google Help India Breathe, if you Google it on Facebook. I think it's also maybe live on YouTube. It'll be broadcast in several different ways. It's streaming on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. That's what it is.
That's great.
Help India Breathe. So please check that out. And the other thing I want to mention was tomorrow, I'll be doing like a full day Bhagavad Gita kind of workshop called 5 Stages of Spiritual Evolution. I'm doing that for One Spirit Seminary. So you can either go to my Facebook page, and right at the top you'll see links for that, as well as a video what that's all about. Or you can just Google One Spirit and go to the workshop, and you'll find it there. But it'll be like, it starts at 9:30, ends at 5:30, with, I assume, some breaks in the middle. I haven't figured that out yet. But if you want to get into Bhagavad Gita study tomorrow, we won't be having the show tomorrow. We have to announce that too, right? No show tomorrow.
Kaustubha's taken off. He's busy.
Yeah. All right.
He's busy. Also, we want to announce we are doing a Wisdom of the Sages retreat. Actually, first of all, I'm doing a day retreat next Saturday, May 8th, at the Bhakti Center in New York City. It's all day with Raghunath. If you can tolerate me for about 6 hours, come on down.
There's a rooftop thing, right?
Rooftop. It's in person on the roof. Come on down. There's prasad. We're going to eat. We're going to sing. We're going to dance. We're going to move our bodies, all that stuff. And that's next Saturday. And then the second weekend of June, we have a really special Wisdom of the Sages.
Put it in the
retreat.
calendar. Make plans now.
Yeah. Come on in. And second weekend of June, we're going to do Wisdom of the Sages retreat, and it happens to be at the same time of the Jagannath Rath Yatra Festival. So we're working. We're still. What's the word I used? It's a great word.
Planning
With a C. No. Curating. We are curating an incredible Bhakti weekend for our Wisdom of the Sages people. So if I don't see you next week, I'm going to see you that week. And if I
That means we'll be doing stuff Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But Saturday is this huge Bhakti festival that goes right down the middle of New York City, and it's a full day of kirtan and prasadam and fun.
Mara,
like that.
Mara, have you ever been to the Rath Yatra Festival? It's
No, I've
incredible.
never been there.
It's incredible.
Alright.
It's like Bhakti takes over New York City for a day. And it's like and you're going down Fifth Avenue in a parade, a giant Krishna parade, chanting and kirtan. It's unbelievable, actually. It's completely unbelievable. You get so happy. You're like, oh my God, everybody's, and people are just like, what? And it's and the best singers from all over come, and there's 3 gigantic handmade carts, and you pull the carts down to Washington Square Park from 59th Street. It's unbelievable. So that's going to be part of our thing.
Okay.
Excited for that.
Me too. All right, that was a lot of announcements. We got to get into it now.
Yeah.
You ready? Oh, actually, first question's for me, right?
I don't know. I'm
It
Florida.
is.
You tell me.
It is.
All right, let me go. Let me get my thing. Our first question for Kaustubha. It's Q&A day if you didn't pick up on that yet. And this is from our good friend Uddhava Sandesh, who I didn't realize, but we got a new nickname for him, Udi. His nickname, Udi.
I thought it was the skate monk.
Well, the Skate Monk is his Instagram handle. Follow him there, the Skate Monk. But here's a question.
All right.
For Kaustubha, I really like Raghu's phrase, the ideal versus the real. Oftentimes, I know what my ideal choices are in life, yet for some reason, I'm impelled to the contrary. In those moments where the real seems so far from the ideal, how can we stay motivated despite our sometimes blatantly stupid decisions?
Okay.
What have you personally found to be the most reliable tool in helping us to act according to our ideals? Your little Das, Udi Sandesh, the Skate Monk.
I'll do the best I can. I'll do the best I can with this. Well, you know, it's very common. As a matter of fact, it's not only like common, it's like to be expected in most vast majority of cases that, you know, there'll be some unsteadiness in our bhakti practice, you know, and that can manifest like fluctuating enthusiasm. You know, like one day you're like, this is, you know, this is the best thing, you know, practicing bhakti. I love it. I'm totally into it. I'm going to be strict about it. I'm going to get serious about it. And then the next day you're kind of like, oh yeah, you know, and you go up and down. So like there's that fluctuating. Sometimes we struggle with the senses. The senses want us to do this. We want to do our bhakti practice. The senses say, no, don't do that. Stay in bed, right? That was what Raghunath did today, right?
That's what I did, yeah. No, I actually, if you want the honest truth, I woke up. I woke up and then went back to bed.
Okay, went back to bed, but that's what I mean. But we'll struggle with the senses in so many different ways. And, you know, this is another common thing, right? Inability to fulfill your spiritual goals, right? I'm going to do this, right? Right? You know, like Mara, she set a goal. I'm going to learn 1866. Now, she did it.
She
right?
did it. She learned
But did
that
she
slogan.
memorize it? Does she
No,
still
she
have it?
didn't.
I'm not sure if she still has it.
She doesn't. She lost it.
We're not going to put her on the spot.
Mamikam Sharanam Vraja
Pretty good.
Aham
Mara.
Tvam Sarva Bhavebhyo Moksha Yasyami Masudaha.
There you go.
Pretty good.
It
Good
was a
enough
little
for
rough.
me. Good enough for me.
Learning those verses. Good for you.
Yeah, okay,
Mara.
so that was a goal that someone set, and then she accomplished it. But sometimes we're like, I'm going to do this, and then we don't do it. You know, so these are common. You know, this kind of unsteadiness in bhakti practice. There's a word that Krishna uses in the Bhagavad Gita, right in the 2nd chapter, when Arjuna is just like not ready to do his duty, right? And Krishna calls it Hridaya Darabalyam. It means weakness of heart, right? When one lacks the will to stand up and do what you know is right, do what you know is good for you, do what you want to do, but you just kind of weak-hearted. You kind of lack the will to do it. And so the great thing, you know, one of the things, you know, I love about, you know, bhakti practice and the text that lay it all out and the culture that's built around it, is it's not kind of, you know, it kind of accommodates our weakness of heart, you know. We can recognize that, you know, my passions, they drive me towards actions that impede my progress towards enlightenment sometimes, right? You know, my senses are calling me to do this or that. And my weaknesses of heart, they prevent me from, you know, carrying out the actions that facilitate my progress towards enlightenment, right? I just don't have the willpower to stand up and do what's right. And so that, like I said, that's not uncommon. It's actually most common that will have that. So here's what I'm going to say, and this has to do with what Urva Udi was saying about tools, you know, and he used that phrase, the ideal and the real. The Bhakti teachings are going to always glorify the real, give us a clear vision of the real, help us feel inspiration to strive for the real. I'm sorry, what am I saying? For the ideal, right? They'll glorify the ideal, and they'll encourage us to strive for the ideal. But they'll recognize the real. They'll recognize that we're struggling with our senses. They'll recognize that we have weaknesses of heart. And so this is commonly how they help us deal with it. I'm going to give you two. He asked for tools. I'm going to give you two tools. So the first one is regulation, right? That's the first tool. You know, regulation is a way of, it embraces the ideal principles, and at the same time, it acknowledges our real human weaknesses, and it creates some space for us to maintain the practice rather than giving it up as hopeless. So, like, I'll just give one simple example. Like, you know, there's a story, you know, our friend Sham Sundar, who we had on the show, who was that really amazing far-out person who had all those adventures with Srila Prabhupada back in the 60s. And
yeah, he made basically single-handedly made the Beatles chant get into Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. So when he was first getting into Krishna, you know, he was smoking cigarettes, which is, you know, kind of like, you know, you can, that's, you know, that you can check that one. It's not good for you. Not good for your bhakti practice, right? So, particularly for someone who's taken initiation vows and so on, which he had already done by that point. And Prabhupada saw him smoking it, and he said, well, I just can't quit. And the ideal would be just quit now, right? We know
that's the ideal. Just
there's
quit.
no point to it. Just quit. That's the ideal thing. But the real was, I'm really struggling with it. So how to accommodate it? So he said like this. He regulated. He said, okay, how many cigarettes are in the pack, right? I think it's, anyone know? It's like 20 or something like that. Something like 20 cigarettes in a pack.
How do you know, Mara?
Mara's not know that.
Because we've asked this before.
Have we? She was, because she was smoking in the girls' room back in that.
Open up that pack of Marlboro there, and you got rolled up in your sleeve.
Let me check.
At the private school, she was like some of the other, like, you know, rebels there, like in the bathroom there, smoking those cigarettes. So he said, okay, there's like 20 in a pack. He said, then like every day, just smoke one less. Right, that's called regulation. Right, that's even like this kind of progressive. You know, one day you smoke 19, the next day you smoke 18.
Regulating the senses.
Right, huh?
Regulating the senses.
You regulate this. Regulating the senses is really, you know. Say I have trouble. You know, like I watch too much television. The ideal is just stop. Yeah. The real is I have trouble just stopping. Okay, start to refine it. Start to either watch better stuff or watch less. You know, like, you know, in other words, take a step forward. Don't worry about the huge step. Just keep taking little steps forward. So that can help a lot. You know, when you have that weakness of heart and you're not ready to take that big step, even you try and you fail and you fall on your face, regulation is the key. You know, and keep moving forward in those small steps. And then the second one is now on the positive side. Simultaneously, as you're regulating, you need the association of people that can do what you can't do. Right? Of people who do have that strength of heart. Their strength will be infectious. So you associate with those people, you hear from them, you spend time with them, you serve them. You know, they'll give you the inspiration, they'll give you the strength to finally turn your back on everything that stands between you and the ideal. You know, and when we serve great souls, you know, and what to speak of when it's like someone you really respect, someone you really say, that person, what they've got, that's what I want to become like. You know, that kind of devotion they have, that kind of dedication. I want to be like that. Then you go to that. It's very personal, you know, but it's very powerful. When you have a relationship with that person and you say, you know what, I'm tired of this weakness of heart. I've had enough of it. I know that this lifetime is short, and I want to make the best use of this human life. I want to progress towards full Krishna Bhakti, towards full enlightenment, you know, towards Krishna Prema. I see the ideal. I want it. I'm sick of my weakness of heart. I need your help. Please engage me in your service. Please instruct me how to take those next steps forward. And I'll tell you what, Raghunath, there is power in those instructions, right? When someone like that gives you an instruction, because when you have affection for that person and admiration for that person, then these instructions, they address both the mind and the heart. They on the level of reason, you can see clearly how this is going to help you, and they can point out how it's going to help you. But on the level of the heart, on the level of the sentiment, one wants to please the people that they admire and they hold true affection for.
Sure.
So, like Udi, he's a disciple of Vaisheshika Prabhu, right? Super
Right.
great soul, like incredibly great soul. You go to him and you say, you know what? I'm tired of my weakness of heart. Give me an instruction. Give me a focus. Give me some service, a way that I can assist you. I want that.
No more skateboarding.
Well, I was going to say he might say that, right?
He is the skate monk.
Well, that's the
Give
thing.
up your skateboard, Maya.
You also have to be willing to carry out what they say, right? But he's so smart. He would say, don't give up the skateboard. Just start to regulate the skateboard, right? A little bit, a little bit less skateboarding.
He might always say skateboard.
No. He's
say-
going to say throw away the skateboard eventually.
I'm not going to say throw away the skateboard.
Just kidding.
You can ride a skateboard and be a pure devotee, I'm sure.
I'm just kidding. All right, that's my answer. Udi, I hope that was helpful. Are you ready for a question now, Raghunath?
Hit me with your best shot.
he's
You
back to
gotta
that
hit
again.
me with your best shot.
All right, here comes. Oh, yeah, okay. This is coming from a regular daily Zoomer. And this is an India correspondent, Abir Ashrani from Mumbai.
I love this man.
All right. I have a question regarding something that was spoken about on the show today. He sent this in on the 29th.
Wait, which one?
So that was just like 2 days ago, right?
Okay.
He says,
This isn't the one I did with Dunya, is it?
no.
Okay, go hit me.
He says, I had a question regarding something that was spoken about on the show today, that our bodies are meant for service, not sense pleasures.
Yep.
We all have a problem with that. We have a question regarding that. While I appreciate the sentiment and sincerely wish I could inculcate, this is exactly the same thing, kind of a weakness of heart question, maybe. He says, while I appreciate the sentiment and sincerely wish I could inculcate this sort of beautiful thinking into my own life, in reality, right, there's the ideal and now there's the real, I struggle to do so. I'm constantly caught up in trying to enjoy some kind of material sense pleasure for the excitement attached to material joys.
That would make you a demon up here.
No, Raghunath, no. However irrational, it still plays a big part in my thinking and my actions. Okay. So my question is this. Why do we experience sense pleasure to begin with? If our bodies were truly meant for service, why make other material experiences pleasurable at all? Since these bodily pleasures create so much confusion and suffering in us in the long run, why are we even allowed to experience them in the first place? I hope I've been able to articulate my thoughts in a clear manner. I would be extremely grateful for any advice on the topic. Thank you again for all the loving service the three of you rendered unto us daily. Oh, thank you, Abir.
Beautiful, Abir. Great question.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to come out of the gates with is we're not born to suffer. We're actually born to enjoy. But you're like, new philosophy.
Changes
Raghunath's
everything.
Raghunath's rewriting the books. No, it is, because our birthright is to be joyful and happy and blissful. Why? Because God's joyful, happy, and blissful. I don't want to think, it's not like spiritual practice should be like, oh, I'm going to beat myself up. I'm going to whip myself or flog myself. That's not necessary. It's not spiritual. You are born to be joyful. That's okay. We are doing time here, learning lessons here. That's for sure. I use this example and I like it. I'm going to go with it too. Dunny,
right.
You can give me a thumbs
Hit
up
it.
if you like this one. The spirit. Okay. I always use the example of my wife and myself. My wife is a very good dancer. I'm a very lousy dancer. If a good dancer and a bad dancer dance together, it looks awkward. But when two good dancers dance, like Dancing with the Stars, it's almost like they're moving as one.
Do you watch Dancing with the Stars, Raghunath? Tell the truth.
I don't actually.
Okay.
I don't actually.
You're just
watch it.
assuming that it's
I'll
good.
confess what I watch, but
Okay.
it's not Dancing with the Stars. So anyway, when you see two dancers dance, though, it becomes very beautiful. In Bhakti-yoga, we are a pure spiritual being, an expert dancer. And then we have this clunky old body. And the clunky old body has been programmed for lifetimes to like certain things and dislike certain things, to act a certain way, to think a certain way, to move a certain way. Basically, we've been programmed, and oftentimes programmed completely illogically. And I think it's safe to say we can agree with that in a lot of ways. And sometimes it's so deeply in our programming, we think, well, it's normal. It's me. And so in the bhakti practice, the sadhana bhakti, where the teacher's saying, try this, do this. Don't talk like that. Think careful of your thoughts, right? We talk about that a lot. Thoughts are things. Careful of your thoughts, careful of your speech, careful what you put in your mouth, careful what you put in your ears, careful what you put in your eyes. What we're doing is we are recalibrating, retraining the external machine to dance like the soul. And therefore we move in this world. Dunya, you like this thing, Dunya? I'm going with it. Oh, she's giving me a double thumbs up. That's a good sign. Therefore, this type of sadhana bhakti, or the practice, is getting the external machine to move like the soul. It is not limiting our pleasure. It's enhancing it. It's susukam kartam avyam, Krishna says in the 9th chapter of the Gita. It's not sukam. It's super sukam. It's susukam. And that it means it's very, very joyful to practice in. I don't have to you beat yourself now, but when you die, you'll go to heaven. No, that's not the bhakti game. It's pleasurable now. You go down to that Rath Yatra festival in New York, and everybody will smile. No one is pulling that cart and crying. You know what I mean? They're all like joyfully blissful, right?
Yeah, it makes no material sense, right? You're walking down like a long walk down the middle of the ocean. You're pulling like this weight. It's crowded.
You're pulling a ton, right? Just like, me and my son and Janeshwar and King of Hearts, we were all bathing at Muktinath in the snow in a glacier lake. And we're all like laughing and smiling. It's joyfully performed. Doesn't mean it's necessarily easy all the time, but it's a joyful practice.
Okay.
It's not a post-dated check of, well, you'll enjoy when you die. No. So, what's the question?
The question was, why do we get these senses that like material enjoyment, though?
Well, that's that's a sort of a separate question, which is we get this body due to our desires. We have desires, and sometimes those desires are off, and we've all can admit that we've had desires off, and it implicates us because what happens is our desires become habitual, and then we keep making dumb choices again and again. So you found this community, and there's spiritual communities out there. This Wisdom of the Sages is a community. It's a living, breathing community, and embrace it. If you like it, embrace it and try it out. If you're new to it, you're not new to it, Abir. You've been for a while, but to the degree that you can refine your habits, and our habits have been coming not just from childhood, from lifetimes. Right? You can see how it's, I've been doing this bad thing for like 10 years. But the yogis can trace it back lifetimes. And so what we're doing is we're creating newer good habits. And, for example, if you don't like yoga, and then you start doing yoga for 2 weeks, you're like, actually, I like yoga. The first 3 days, you hate yoga. If you're not a vegetarian and you're like, I hate this, give me a burger. And then all of a sudden you become vegetarian, you feel lighter, you feel healthier, feel connected, right? You don't like to fast, or you do a juice fast, and day 3, you're like, oh, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to kill Raghunath. I'm going to, and then you're going to be like, by day 4, you're like, actually, I feel very controlled. So those things that are a little painful at first become sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. Mm-hmm. And we start to connect the external dancer to that internal dancer. And then you know what's happening? What? We are doing Dancing with the Stars in this material world. We're no longer in the material world. It's like being in the prison, but having the warden pardon us.
Okay.
Think about that analogy, Kaustubha, Mara, and Dunya.
I like it. Well done. Good answer.
Good answer.
Okay. Now this is the next question. Now Raghunath was just saying like Wisdom of the Sages is like a community, right?
It is.
and we get all kinds of great questions, but sometimes these questions like, we're not prepared. We don't have like the skills to handle this question. And this is something exciting. We're bringing Dunya on because Dunya, she's got like, she's got like the credentials, when it comes to counseling that we don't have. And which brings up a large, actually, I'm going to save this topic after she answers. I'm going to bring up something, but we got a really nice question, a sincere question. But when I looked at it, I said, you know what? I don't know how to answer this question. She wants, this is question that's being asked by Corinne. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Corinne. Yeah, maybe Corinne. And it's a great question. And I know that she wants like an answer from the Bhakti-yoga philosophical perspective. But it also has like deep psychological kind of nuances to it. And I said, we need a person that has both devotional credentials as well as, like counseling credentials. And that's why we reached out to Dunya. So Dunya, we want to bring Dunya on right now. And she's on. Okay, you're unmuted, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, are you ready for this question, Dunya?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. This is the question. She asks, I have noticed over and over that my worst qualities come out when I'm in a committed relationship. I'm impatient, rude, condescending, frustrated, attached, immature, and controlling. Why is this? Why, with the one person I'm trying to build a life with, do my worst qualities come out?
Good question.
Why do I seem to continuously push these people out of my life? I feel I will forever be alone because of these actions and reactions. It's a very sincere and honest and vulnerable question, and it's the kind of thing like, there are patterns that the mind go through, and there are psychological patterns that people that study this, they know about. I don't know about that. Raghunath doesn't know about it. But Dunya, maybe you can help with this question.
Yeah. Well, I think it is a brilliant question. And I think any of us that have been in even a short-term committed relationship, but especially a long-term committed relationship, I think we've all experienced this phenomenon, which is like, I love this person so much, I'm so connected, and all of my emotional garbage seems to be what comes up, especially in a moment when I'm triggered or where there's conflict, or and from a counseling perspective, most theorists would agree, and this is especially true. There's this one author, Harville Hendricks, he talks about how this is actually designed to happen. You're actually going to be almost like magnetized towards someone who's going to trigger the exact things that will make all of these qualities come out, that will kind of put your shadow into the light and will make you kind of have to take a look at the things that you really need to work on in this lifetime. And you're designed to do the same thing for them. If you talk to this person's partner, they would say, yeah, they bring out the worst in me too. Like, what's that about?
This is a great relationship. We're bringing out the worst in each other.
Now, this is
Honey,
wild.
you really bring out the worst in me. Well, you too.
Soulmates.
Wait a second. Dunya, I got a question for you. People always say you get magnetically attracted to the person. What about an arranged marriage? Cultures around the world have had arranged marriage. How do you get arranged with the person that will magnetically pull those things out?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not just that your kind of shadow qualities are attracted, but also your strengths are attracted to one another. So in an arranged marriage, ideally, a healthy family understands their children, and they know their nature, and they know their personalities, and they know their character and their temperament. So does the other healthy family approaching. So it's two healthy families courting one another based on the qualities and compatibilities of their children, including knowing what they need to work on and what environment would be conducive to help them work on that. So there's no question that in any relationship, your shortcomings are going to come up. If you have enough commitment and enough time together, those shortcomings are going to pop up. And so arranged marriage or not arranged marriage, there's going to be, and there's also the karmic component, right? The people that we get placed with in this lifetime, that's to an extent, it's arranged, karmically speaking, It's arranged.
Dunya, you got it all. That was like the perfect answer. She's got it. She's
so
got it
in
together.
other words, don't be afraid of it. Like,
so kind of, what this theorist and many theorists say is basically okay, how do you know you have a skill? It has to be put to the test, right? Just like when you go to the gym, how do I know that I can lift a certain weight? Well, I actually have to lift it. I can't just theoretically, say that I'm an athlete or whatever. So in the sense of relationships, in order for me to acquire these qualities that I aspire for, there has to be a sufficient challenge or sufficient resistance for me to develop that skill, because skills are not developed in a vacuum. Skills are developed with a certain amount of resistance there, so that I can rise to the occasion, really put to test what I understand theoretically. So if I want to have equanimity, if I want to speak sweetly, if I want to understand another person, if I want to learn to be a good listener, if I want to learn to express my emotions in a healthy way, I have to be in a certain level of kind of challenging environment to try those skills out. And so a lot of times that's what this is going to be. And ideally, you can try this out in a space where it's safe to be vulnerable, right? You get to know somebody, there's a certain amount of safety, there's a certain amount of vulnerability where you feel like you can share, they can share. Then that kind of, it's kind of like the churning of the milk ocean, that all of a sudden the impurities start to come up. That's what happens when there's a certain amount of contact with another person. Impurities are going to come up. But then what do you do with that? If your instinct is to bolt, then you don't get a chance to develop those skills. If your instinct is to attack, then you also don't get a chance to develop those skills. So they're constantly like these missed opportunities to rise to the occasion, put into practice what I'm reading in Bhagavatam, what I learn in counseling, what I've learned in my community, etc. So the idea is not to see it as something that's wrong with me when my shadow qualities come up, rather seeing it as this is a necessary component for me to rise to the next level in my relationships. This has to happen. And now how do I equip myself with personal coping skills, community support, partner communication skills, etc., to really kind of fortify myself and then be able to take on the challenge, rather than feeling like, oh no, this is coming up again, there must be something wrong with me, like shaming yourself or experiencing shame from the other person.
So don't bolt, don't attack, but this is the opportunity to put it all to practice, all that we've been studying and all that we've been talking about. And so on.
Right.
What about physical aggression? Does that help?
Always.
When nothing else works.
Wrestle them. Wrestle. Have rules, but wrestle.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That was much better than that was so helpful, Danya. And the thing that I want to mention was, as Raghunath was saying, Wisdom of the Sage is a community. And one great thing that has grown out of this community is, Nancy and Jiva, they just kind of on their own, they just picked up the ball and ran with it when it came to the Bhakti Recovery Group. And it's really, become a dynamic part of a lot of people's lives. And similarly, I'm in talks with some other friends who all have different a lot of them are like counselors in hospitals, or people with different, credentials in terms of mental health care or relationship counseling, Dunya being one of them. But there's some talk about putting together a team similar to the Bhakti Recovery Group, but that's dealing with like mental health and counseling issues. Because quite frankly, there's practically no one left in this world that isn't dealing themselves, or, a loved one isn't dealing with depression, anxiety, problems with relationships, grieving of some sort, whatever it may be. And so, we're trying to pull together a team of experts, professionally in those fields, but people that are also have, like a strong roots in bhakti practice. That could
This is going to be.
It could be so helpful, right?
This is going to be so next level for the Wisdom of the Sages community.
Yeah.
And actually, Dunya, I really want to thank you. That was a great answer, and you're one sharp tool. And I'm really happy to have you.
I tell you,
come in today.
Yeah, there's another question that we had further down the road, but why don't we ask this one right now? Because it's a question for Raghunath, but I think it might be something that Dunya can help with too.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm afraid that these team of therapists, it's all a plan, Mara.
It's for Raghu.
They're all gonna come around me. We're having an intervention, Raghunath. It's you. The whole thing has been created for your mental health.
He figured it out. Okay, you ready? This is a question. It's for Raghu, but Dunya, please hang on because we may need your help with this too. This is coming from Gary via email, and he writes, I want to start by saying thank you for showing me the next step. I was wondering, what's the next step? And then you had to show up on Joe Rogan and change my life, Raghu. You had to step in, change my life.
I call him Bhakti Joe. Bhakti Joe has brought so many people to, whatever you think about Joe Rogan, he's brought so many people to Wisdom of the Sages. It's incredible.
He says, my main point in writing this is that I struggle with anxiety. Here you go, right? Yeah. I struggle with anxiety, and I love your take. I struggle with being alone. For the longest time, the only way around this was a girlfriend I was always with friends, or being very intoxicated. Now I have found that when I put your podcast on, or I read about this aspect of reality, the anxiety fades. I wonder if this is because I'm occupying my thoughts, or I just get anxious without the connection to Krishna. This can make work hard, being home alone hard, and anything that isn't giving me some kind of connection. I guess I know the solution is to put more of my life into Krishna. I just don't know why it has to make me so anxious. My parents own an automotive shop, and I was planning on running this, but the issue is pushing away. But the issue is pushing me away from the lifestyle. I think he's saying my anxiety that constantly arises in me is making me fearful of taking up this career opportunity. He says, I just don't know how I could ever get away from that anxiety. So now I'm looking to becoming a therapist. Is there anything I can do to truly figure out what is my right path? I feel that being a therapist will be more fulfilling. It's just a huge leap. Lastly, if this is my path, where can I go in scripture to enlighten me on helping myself and others? I'm just beginning to read books, and I have no idea where to start. I'd honestly like to just leave home and surround myself with like-minded people. It just doesn't seem practical. Now, there's a lot to that question already.
There's a lot. There's two big things that pop out.
But there's still one. There's still more to this question.
Okay.
I'll just throw this out right now, but I think it's probably all tied in. He says, on a separate issue, I have a deep love for women. I love the idea of sharing my life with someone and growing together.
Yeah.
A lot of my day ends up being focused on finding the right one for me. I'm just out of a 4-year relationship. I almost question whether part of my path in this life is to give that up. It just seems like I become less devoted in a relationship. In other words, I think less devoted to my spiritual practice when I'm in a relationship. I want that lifestyle so bad, the devotional lifestyle, I assume, that it makes me think I need to focus on leaving that want behind. The want for like a soulmate, I suppose, is what he's saying. Thank you for your time. It's a blessing to get your insight every day. Gary Beardsley. Raghu, why don't you start off trying to
I'll
tackle
start
that?
off and then I'll pass the baton to Dunya.
Okay.
Thanks, Gary. What a great question. And I want to share everything. I want to share with everybody out there, whether you write in your name or you can also write in anonymous. Don't be afraid to write in, because every time somebody asks a question, there is a ripple effect of there's a bunch of people out there going, God, that's my question.
Right.
And we can all we see ourselves on your journey home. We're seeing our journey home. So the first thing is, Gary, you're doing everything right, meaning you are taking shelter of transcendental sound. Wisdom of the Sages, as screwbally as I am at times, we're trying to read the Bhagavatam. We're trying to hear timeless wisdom from sages passed down, and we do it in a contemporary way. And to the degree that you do that, the fever of anxiety will diminish. It's natural. It will naturally diminish. Why? Because we stop seeing ourselves as the controller of our destiny. We start to see ourselves as something tiny, part of something bigger, or something small, part of something bigger. And when we hear about our real position, I'm a spiritual person, I'm not a body. Just identifying with the body puts you in anxiety, isn't it? Come on, if you're completely absorbed with your body as yourself, I am my abs, I am my eyes, I'm my wrinkles. That's enough to put you like right over the edge. To the degree that you identify with the body as yourself, you're going to suffer. So you're going to find that this practice will naturally make the fire of anxiety diminish. It just will. And if you have no anxiety whatsoever, then I'd be really worried about you, because you're in complete illusion. Of course, we're going to have some anxiety, even in a healing position. It's just not going to own us. If you don't, the world is temporary and we're spiritual beings. So that's a problem right there. That's the predicament of the soul. And I think as far as the women thing, put that on the back burner. Put that on the back burner. The best thing we can do for our future love is to work on ourselves right now.
You're saying because he's just out of a relationship, like
Just
take a step back?
Not only that, but but because he's going through these really deep questions of life right now. Well, how would I deal with anxiety? How do I deal with direction? How do I deal? We don't want to bring somebody into our own issues. It's going to be it's almost like if you're in debt and this girlfriend I'm dating is in debt and we're thinking about married. Before you get married, both of you guys get out of debt. The best thing we can do for our future marriage, would be to work on our own stuff. Instead of spending a year planning your wedding, spend that year working really hard on your own personal issues. It's the best thing you could do going forward. Don't get girls out of the mind or get a lover out of the mind, and just work on yourself. And you're doing it, and you just got to keep going forward. You don't need to do anything extreme. If you want to do something extreme, add more spiritual topics to your day. You don't have to, leave everything and leave your parents. And then, all of a sudden you'll get very, very lucid directions. Should I take the family business? Should I become a therapist? Mm-hmm. As you add more spiritual truth to your life, the directions will become more clear. Danya, can you help?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo basically everything that you said, Raghu, because, I think that anxiety that this person is experiencing is so clearly the anxiety we should all kind of be experiencing, which is, I think I'm a fish and I think I've been out of water, right? Which is like, I'm a spirit soul in a material situation and everything here gives me anxiety. And it's because it's not compatible with my nature. It's not the same frequency we're vibrating at. So that kind of anxiety is actually, it can be conducive to spiritual life. And if you see any of the stories in Bhagavatam, if you see, the story of the Bhagavad Gita, all of that, essentially it's people in crisis, but then it's what they do with that crisis, where they turn to in crisis. And so that's kind of the layer that I would emphasize, which is, where are you going for counsel? You're not meant to do this alone. I hear throughout the entire question, even with the women piece and stuff, that there's this experience of isolation, an experience of loneliness. And it's very common, and it's perhaps amplified now, especially with all the COVID stuff going on and all that. So spiritual life is not meant to be done alone. It's not necessary for it to be done alone, especially in the Bhakti community. And from the Bhakti perspective, your Bhakti is amplified and elevated by your association. And so I think that could be a really excellent kind of bridge into, going further in your spiritual life, is to realize that through Bhakti, I can actually connect to community. And then when it comes time to make these decisions, not only am I inputting sacred texts and high vibration sounds and high vibration foods and so on, I can actually create relationships that are strong and deep and meaningful, so that when it's time to make a relationship, I can go to people that I trust with for counsel, people who share my values, people who will kind of guide me, not based on, well, the car shop's going to give you more money than counseling. Counseling is a lot of school. Are you going to go into debt? All the kind of nuts and bolts of that. They're actually going to say, well, what's in your nature? How does this align with your purpose? How can you connect this to your service, right? Where do you see yourself serving in the community? How does this connect you to your relationship with Krishna and so on? So it's a totally different kind of advice that you get when your association is with people who have compatible values. So I think that would be kind of the medicine for that loneliness, is continue to connect with the content, but also continue to connect with the people, root down in good, strong relationships. And like Raghu said, that doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, because that can start to complicate things. And then you can be kind of like missing the forest for the trees. Yeah. It's kind of like you're so driven to get a partner that you're kind of like missing out on, like, wait a minute, am I developing myself? Am I becoming a worthy partner for the partner that I want to get? Am I developing myself? Right. So it's kind of what Raghu was saying, there's no way to overstate the effect of you really working on yourself and embedding that in a community. And then, your partner will arrive when they arrive. And the higher your frequency is, it's likely that you're going to get a higher frequency partner as well.
Being the right person is so much more important than finding the right person. Ooh. Neil from Memphis.
Thank you, Neil. Could I take that question just a bit further? because the kind of anxiety that was being mentioned here, it seemed to me like it's this thing that just won't go away. I have this horrible feeling that comes, over my mind, over my body, maybe, that, I try this, I try that. I'm afraid. I have this opportunity, this great opportunity to take over this business, but this anxiety just won't go away. And I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita, and I'm chanting my mantras, and it's not going away. Is there some, it, recently we had a similar question where someone was asking, is the bhakti process not working? Or what to do? I'm committed to doing this practice, and I'm dedicating my time to it, but what's going to relieve me from that horrible, is it a chemical thing? What's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely have a chemical component. I think that the somatic component, the body component, is so important to acknowledge. And what you're talking about, this is persistent anxiety where it's like, yeah, I'm doing all this stuff, but I'm still feeling anxious. So from a counseling perspective, frankly, a lot of what we would work on is self-soothing skills, right? So how do I learn to connect with what my body is feeling, and on a nervous system level, and this is what we talked about previously, which is like self-care, appropriate self-care. Appropriate self-care is, let me connect with what's happening in my body and soothe my nervous system so that I can continue doing the things that are meaningful for me. And so that could be breathing, that could be time spent in nature, this could be exercise, this could be nutrition, this could be appropriate amount of sleep. And so certainly there can be a chemical component for that, but we have to acknowledge that just like if there was some deficiency in the body, I'm running low on magnesium, I could read the Gita all day, but if I need to take a magnesium supplement, I should probably go get the magnesium supplement so I can continue reading my Gita without feeling the effects of magnesium deficiency or whatever. So the same thing happens with the subtle body. If we think about the mind as part of the subtle body, part of the equipment that we're working with, you might need to supplement your spiritual life with some counseling help, with self-soothing skills, coping skills. So community is co-regulation, relationships is co-regulation, and then there's self-regulation. What do I do to soothe myself? The other thing is, a lot of times in working with people who struggle with anxiety, which is a huge portion of the population, it's learning to do things along with anxiety, right? I do feel anxious and I can work out. I do feel anxious and I can go for a japa walk. So basically it's saying, okay, if this anxiety is here, I may not be able to control it exactly. So perhaps I can find a way to either welcome it or allow it some space in my life without it having eclipse everything else that's going on in my life. So I can have it, let's say, we're on a journey, it's in the car, but it's not behind the wheel. It could be riding shotgun and like maybe controlling the radio. I don't know what that would sound like, but not behind the wheel. Something else has to be driving the wheel. So maybe my Atma, my spirit soul, my conscious spiritual self can be behind the wheel. And if anxiety needs to ride with me for a little bit, okay, let's find a way to make that happen without it totally taking over my nervous system. And that's what self-regulation is probably going to look like.
And if you can do that, the anxiety may gradually start to fade.
Yeah, because a lot of times the emotions that are kind of ringing alarm bells, what they need is attention. What they need is some care and some softness and some space, acknowledgement, presence with it. And like everything in this material world, including the most awful kind of spikes of anxiety or depression, it's temporary. We don't realize it because it feels so overwhelming.
We're in it.
But, if
this
you
is
can
never
find
going to end.
Exactly. And that's part of anxiety. Anxiety means catastrophizing. A component of anxiety is making you feel like it's not going to end. So it's learning to ride that wave and watching it. A big part of meditation is that, and a big part of kind of detaching from the mind and residing in the intelligence is going to be that is, can you watch the anxiety change even like micro degrees? And if you watch it change, you'll actually observe that it's a wave and it's got a curve, and eventually it comes down and then it comes back up. And all of a sudden you see like, oh, this is a rhythmic thing. It's got a shape to it. And then you start to figure out ways to manage it. This is not meant to be done alone. Someone should help you do this. It's a lot of pressure to feel like, okay, now I got to figure out the strategy. So there's strategies out there, but it's definitely something you can manage. And it's not necessarily like a magic wand thing that we're just going to like solve with a Gita shloka or something.
Daniel, why do you think anxiety is epidemic now more than ever?
Man,
this is a big one.
Probably the internet. I don't know.
You got another couple hours?
We're online right now. This is why.
I know. No, I think it's just even though we feel like we're very connected because we're exposed to so much information, it actually amplifies our isolation. And we get flooded, right? There's like a certain capacity of sensory input that a body is designed to have. And things like the internet, media, advertisement, consumer culture, capitalism, it just bombards you to a level where it's like literally sensory overload.
Information overload. I know too much. I know too much.
Exactly. And so what happens is your senses kind of like contract, and it becomes this kind of thing of like, oh no, it becomes actually quite overwhelming. I don't think we realize how overwhelmed we are. And so when your nervous system becomes overwhelmed by something, it starts to kind of vibrate out. That's what anxiety is. It's too much.
I realized it. Last time Kaustubha came over to my house was teacher training. And I was like, Kaustubha was giving class. I had to sort of like manage him. I had to manage Mara. She was bringing the food over. Bobby Marchand was teaching. I had to manage her a little. My kids are running around like playing with chainsaws. I had to manage them. And next thing, Kaustubha looks at me and goes, how do you live like this? I was like, this is business as usual, man. Hey, though, Sega just wrote in, and Sega from Portugal, and he said, ever since I've been listening to Wisdom of the Sages, my anxiety has almost disappeared. I haven't felt anxious for months.
I just, because we're running out of time, I just want to thank Dunya so much. And I just want to say, imagine if Dunya and a few others that had her kind of knowledge and skills and compassion and wisdom, imagine if they were part of the Wisdom Sages community and they kind of like had a weekly kind of call in and dealt with questions like this, or had some kind, like some kind of regular thing where people can be checking in, and bringing forth their experiences, sharing what they're going through. I'm really excited about the idea of something like this developing.
The team can sit around me on my therapy. I'll be laying on that therapy couch, and they can just start picking the brain apart. Where did it all go wrong, Raghu? What was that happened to you? Thanks, everybody. I think that's it. Dunya, thanks, our special guest, Dunya.
Thank you,
Glad
guys.
to have you here. Thank you guys for joining us. And we want to make an announcement that January, we have our Super Soul 300 Bhakti Cultural Immersion in India with Radha Swami at the Eco Village. Mara's been there. Kaustubha's doing the wisdom training with me and Doyle Garunga. Madhu's doing the Kirtan training and the Ayurveda training. You can just go to supersoulyoga.com or raghunath.yoga and check out those offerings in January. Get the hell out of the winter up north and let's go to India. We're hoping COVID will be down by then. Also, I'm doing a teacher training upstate this year in August with Bobby Marchand. Love to see you there. Next week, May 8th, I'm doing an all-day thing at the Bhakti Center in person, not online, in person. Please come. And then our Wisdom of the Sages retreat is going to happen the second weekend of June. And then the following weekend, Long Beach, California, we're doing another Wisdom of the Sages retreat. Me and Kaustubha, we're hitting the road. We'll try to grab Mara too. Bring her and her vegan meatballs. We should do one in Florida where you are, Dunya. You're in northern Florida.
We'd love to have you. It's a great place.
It's a great place for a great day. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And this is how we end the show. We dance a little.